Morning, everyone. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Great. Welcome. What's everyone grateful for today? If we put that in the chat. Great. Summer weather. Yeah, we're going to get really hot, right? Hi, Jennifer. Hi, Felicitas. Hi, Sonia. Hi, Elena. Great. So today we have an exciting day. We have two subject matter experts. So there's not going to be much time in between. We'll see. We may have a chance to pitch your business idea and talk about what we've learned, but it depends on how long the subject matter experts go. I know the librarian goes long, and I sometimes have to stop her because she loves what she does. She's so enthusiastic about secondary market research. She's great. So she will be here first. Lori Preston is her name. And then we have another woman named Bridget Anderson, and she's an expert in primary market research. So those are our two subject matter experts. We still have a couple minutes. We'll wait to see who else joins us and get started. So thanks for joining us. Oh, hi, Lori, you're here.
Hello, yes, I am. Good morning. Hello, thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming. I know I was just explaining how enthusiastic you are.
Thank you, yes, thank you.
I'm going to make you a co-host so that you can share your screen, but do you want to test your screen, sharing your screen?
Yes, thank you.
I'll stop sharing mine, then you can test yours.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, is my PowerPoint presentation shown?
Yes, it is. It says
Wonderful.
resources for research.
Excellent. Thank you.
You know, we can just keep that up because I was just going to go through the general things that I start with. I go through the weeks that we're planning and the homework. So we'll just take about 5 minutes to do that, and then I'll introduce you, Lori, and you can
Wonderful.
get started.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Okay, and then you have till about 9:55, and I will have to stop you because we do have another subject matter expert coming to talk about primary market research. So
I understand. That's okay. Thank you.
So welcome to everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We are going to it's going to be a research filled day. So first you're going to learn about secondary research, market research, and how you can access free resources within the library to do such research on your competitors, your an ideal location for you, and your target market. So that's what we're going to do today. Does anyone have any questions from last week? Was anyone able to get any interviews in? Were they able to talk to anyone about their business idea and practice, even just practicing their interviews?
This is Marilyn. I did interview one woman. She was a
Yay.
CEO of a small business. And the meeting went about, we booked 30 minutes. I got it done in 26 minutes. She let me record it. So that was nice too. So I can go back and listen to it again. So I didn't have to take notes while we were talking.
Oh, that's a great idea. And so how did you reach out to her and how did she agree to do it?
Well, she sort of was, I know someone that works for her. And so that was kind of the soft introduction that person introduced me to her, and she agreed to, give me some time.
Perfect. That's good news. Anyone else? Thanks for sharing, Marilyn. Anyone else have any interviews that they did or anyone they talked to, anything that went well this week?
This is Julie. I had a really good discussion with actually one of my principals who's leaving the district to go somewhere else. And so just talking through the idea, asking the questions, and just really brainstorming what this might look like for a principal. So it was a really good discussion.
Great. And so remind everyone you're going to do leadership.
Right. Education leadership, enriching leadership, which will be focused at first on principals on up to superintendents.
Perfect. Anyone else? Anyone else have any success stories? Even if you got an interview scheduled.
I did an interview yesterday.
Great.
And I learned that I really need to rethink my client intake process. So that actually was really helpful. And that's something that I'm gonna rethink this week.
Oh, great. And Jennifer, you want to explain what you do? I know, but I just want to make sure everyone else
I'm
knows.
I'm an estate planning attorney. And so I'm hoping to write estate plans for your families. And some of the things that I learned were that, well, I knew this, but nobody wants to fill out a form to give me information. So I'm going to have to rethink how I can make that process less painful for people. So I have some ideas based on my conversations from yesterday. So I think that will, I'm going to work on that this week.
Yeah, I know we have people, it's not the same though. We have people fill out intake forms and we can't meet with them if they don't fill out the intake form, but you want to meet with them. So you can't offer that consequence.
Right. It's a little harder now because of the fact that I can't meet with them in person. I mean, I have been doing in-person meetings, but some people are not comfortable with that yet. So yeah, so I'm going to have to rethink it. I have some ideas and also I'm going to have to tailor it to the type of person that I'm talking to, because some people might like writing stuff down on paper and they have all that information. And some people might prefer doing it online and doing an online form. And so that's something that I will, didn't really think about. Okay, I can't have just one way to do this.
Yeah. Well, great. You learned something new. That's always helpful. Okay, why don't we get started on secondary market research? Because I know Lori prepared a wonderful presentation. I got to see it. Let me introduce Lori. She's a good friend of the Women's Business Development Center. Lori Preston, she's a business services librarian at the Park Ridge Public Library. She's been a librarian for the past 20 years and has worked in business services for the past 4 years. She's an expert at helping you research your industry, your competition, and your target market. So a big welcome to Lori.
Oh, thank you so much, Maura, for having me again. And thank you everyone for listening to me. I'm probably gonna talk kind of fast, so I apologize for that. Maura did send over the list of participants to me and what areas you all live in, because the first source I'm going to talk about, which is Data Axle Reference Solutions, that one is only accessible through your library. And when I took a peek at where everyone lives, unfortunately, the person who's from Broadview, the Broadview Public Library does not have Data Axle Reference Solutions, but they do have one of their competitors called A to Z Databases. So the person who is from Broadview, it's going to be very similar, but I'm not quite sure. I haven't used A to Z databases in a long time, and I'm not sure if they have the consumers part, but I believe they probably do. So unfortunately, Broadview and Midlothian, whoever is from Midlothian Public Library does not have Data Axle Reference Solutions. They do not subscribe to it. This is a subscription only service. And they don't have A to Z databases either. So if you want me to, you could contact me directly and let me know what you're working on, and I could try to do a reference USA Data Axle Reference Solutions search for you. Chicago, Naperville, Evanston, Northbrook, Elgin, which is the Gail Borden Public Library, you all have this Data Axle Reference Solutions. So I'm going to talk about that and Census Business Builder today. Census Business Builder is a free website and you do not need a library card to access that. So as Maura said, I have been a librarian for technically over 20 years, but we'll just say 20. And I've been in the business services, helping people research businesses for about the past 4 years. So Data Axle Reference Solutions, like I said, is where you can find detailed information about businesses and consumers. You can download or email the records to yourself. You could print out the results. You can do all different types of search criteria, and you have to access it through your library with a library card. So I didn't show like how to log in because of course, every library is different. So depending on how you look on the library's website, it might be under databases, or it could be under research and learn, or digital services, things like that. But it's called, it went through a name change. So it's either gonna be under Reference USA or Data Axle Reference Solutions. And so first off, I'm gonna show how to search for businesses. And now it's up to 63 million businesses. I did this presentation back in February. There were 62 million businesses. So the has gotten more information, more business records. So when you log into the screen, you'll first see a quick search screen, and you could search for, like, if you know the company's name already, what location they're in, like a phone book. However, today we're going to focus on the advanced search because you can search for different criteria. So here is the advanced search screen. I'm just showing the top part. You can search for just verified records, which is verified by Data Axle Reference Solutions. That's why there's only about 15 million records, or almost 16 million records currently. If you also include the unverified businesses, that's where we get to about that 63 million businesses. So I know that some of you, as I saw, are going into, I'm just doing one example search. So I wanted to search for attorneys, and I'm thinking about locating my law firm in 2 different zip codes in Chicago. So I'm going to search for just verified businesses. And I am going to search for the NAICS codes, which is that NAICS radio button in the middle there. And that's the North American Industry Classification System, which the Census uses and many other statistical agencies use to get statistics on businesses. In this case, attorneys. The NAICS code is that number that you see in front of the word attorneys. So I'm going to select attorneys, and throughout the United States, there's about 359,000 attorneys. And then I also then went ahead and put in my 2 zip codes. Now you can also go ahead and search by city and state. You could search by metro area, different geographies. So just keep that in mind. It doesn't only have to be zip codes. You could search all attorneys in Chicago. However, the results, of course, will be more. So in this case, which just searching these 2 Chicago zip codes of 60622 and 60647, I have now 80 results for attorneys. So this is the results screen. As you see at the top, 9 have email addresses, and you could purchase those from Data Axle Reference Solutions if you click that More Info button by email addresses. But here are the results. It just shows the company name, the executive name column, street address, city, state, zip code, and phone number. If you were to click on any of these, you could, any of these results like Abrams and Abrams, you could then see more information. I didn't take a screenshot of that, but if you click onto each company name, you can see more information like other nearby businesses, competitors report. Most of these are private companies, so they don't necessarily have to report much. So anything like advertising revenue or income, things like that, those are going to be estimates. The buttons also at the top, review, you could review your search criteria and change it if you wanted to. Details, you can see the details of any records that are selected, and you can download or email up to 250 records at one time. So if you end up having many, more than 250 results, you would have to just uncheck the boxes on each page and then go through and download more if you need more records than that. So heat map and summary charts and download, I did take some screenshots. So I'm going to show you what some of those buttons would show. So here is the heat map button for the businesses. And you can search by location or generate a heat map for location, sales volume, or number of employees. In this case, I chose location. And if you could see on the screenshot there, you'll see that there's different colors. And so green is lower density of businesses and the red is higher density of businesses. And this might help you consider where you want to locate your business, or if you're the business to business people, how many lawyers are in that area, or how many types of businesses are in that one concentrated area. And then you could then get closer onto the map and start to see red pin dots showing the names of the businesses. One of the other buttons at the top is summary, and you can summarize the results and just receive record counts. So you can show account breakdown. In this case, I chose by employee size. And then the geography breakdown, I decided I wouldn't choose anything there. So no geography breakdown. So in this case, employee size, most of these are small law firms because we were searching attorneys. So 72 of the records, the place has 1 to 4 employees, and then only 8 of them have 5 to 9 employees. So no large law firms in this area. And then the charts button, you can chart or have like a pie chart of different information. So you could do the SIC code or the NAICS code. In this case, we only search for one NAICS code, so that probably wouldn't do anything. You could do one for employee size, but in this case, I did sales volume. And the colors and pieces of pie represent companies with different, actually the first one is the sales volume, and then the other one is employee size. So as we saw in the summary report, of course, most of them 1 to 4 employees, so that's going to be the larger piece of pie. The rest are 5 to 9 employees. And if you click onto the pieces of pie, you can then look at what companies are in that section. And download, like I said, you can download up to 250 records at one time. So this is only 80. So they say the most popular is comma delimited, and that's sort of an Excel format. So you could then sort the information. That's one reason to use comma delimited. Summary, it would just include like name and address and a few other additional fields. Detailed would include all of the data. And custom, you could just choose which information you wanted. I just want the name of the company, the address, employee size, and maybe one other thing. So you could customize the fields. And again, you can also print out the results if you need to. Another section to the data axle reference solutions, which is very, very interesting, especially for those looking to actually like have a storefront or need to reach out to people, to consumers. And that's the consumer's lifestyle search, which is also part of the data axle reference solutions. So when you click onto that, and remember, we're looking for people like you and I, consumers. So if you want to do a search for yourself, see what lifestyle categories they have for you, and they get the information, Data Axle Reference Solutions purchases the information from companies, marketing companies, that then gather this information and put it into a database like this. So you could search for consumers and their lifestyles. So again, here is the quick search screen, and you could put in a name, you know, if you know, city name, whatever, use it like a phone book. However, it's the lifestyle category that we really want to focus on today. Those were just the main categories. Here is the advanced search for the US consumers and lifestyles database. So it won't, no NAICS codes, nothing like that. So it's just name. You could do zip codes again. You can do how many contacts per household you want to reach out to. And then the lifestyles category. So again, the advanced search is probably what you want to look at. And again, there's almost 310 million people listed in this consumers database. So again, I saw that someone wanted to go into financial planning, maybe hopefully with consumers. So here I'm using my zip codes again of 60622 and 60647. Again, you can search by all different types of geography. I'm just gonna stick with those 2 zip codes. I decided to choose only 1 contact per household. And in the lifestyles category, so on the quick search screen, you just see the main category like apparel, fashion, beauty. But when you're on the advanced search, they have the little plus sign next to it, and then you can expand the selections. So under personal finance / self-help, one of the choices is investments in finance. So I put a little check mark next to that box, and then I pressed onto update count, and then I have now 2,175 results. So on this next screen, it then shows the results. Again, 432 have email addresses, and again, you'd have to purchase those through Data Axle Reference Solutions. I'm not sure what the price is. I've never purchased anything from Data Axle, so you could contact them for more information. I'm not quite sure how they put how they show the results. So if you want to, like someone like me, a librarian, you might want to sort, you can sort each of these columns. So you could sort it by last name and start it from A to Z. You can also sort it by street address, things like that. Again, some of these people might be on the do not call registry, and for many of them, they don't have a phone number available because cell phones don't have to be listed. So just keep that in mind if you see phone numbers on there. And again, we've got the review, details, map, summary, charts, download and print. Again, you can have can do 250 downloads at a time. Printing has no limits on it as long as you've got paper and ink. And in this case, again, review, you could change out your search criteria if you wanted to get rid of one of those zip codes or search for a different lifestyle category. Details, again, if you click onto some of the boxes of the results, you could see details just for those people. And then I'll show some heat map, summary, and charts in the next screens.
And
So
now,
this is-
Lori,
yeah.
I just wanted to add
Yes.
that people weren't paying attention to direct mail, but I've heard now that everyone's home, direct mail has become more of a way of doing marketing. So this
Definitely.
would be, yeah, a nice way to get a list of people in an area code or a zip code that you're interested in.
That's for sure. Yeah, that's definitely one of the uses for this as an ad campaign, or am I going to have customers or consumers depending on where I locate my storefront if you're going to have an office. So in this case, for financial planning, I thought, okay, why don't we get people, depending on which avenue you're going, maybe you want to reach the people with the highest, and of course, these are all estimated, but the highest home income in the area to try to narrow down those 2,175 results if you want to. So at this case, they're showing, for whatever reason, just 1,858 consumers at this Zoom level, and that was with that heat map. And in this case, instead of lower density, higher density, in this case, the heat map is green is lower income, red is higher income. So you might want to narrow or zoom in to those spots that are more red. And so here on the other side, I've got a screenshot of the map with the little red pin dots. And if you hover onto one of those pin dots, it will tell you the person's name and their address and their estimated home income. And on the area that I zoomed into, Elena Rodriguez is #1, and her estimated home income is $500,000. And so you'll see the top 10 results in a list, and you could click on to just Elena's name and see her other lifestyle interests. Again, you can do a summary. So again, another count of how many records. And in this case, I did estimated home income again. And I did do the geography breakdown by 5-digit zip code. And then once you get the results, you can sort those columns as well. So it shows when you do the estimated home income, it goes from like less than 20,000 to 500,000 is at the bottom. So I resorted it. So that way 500,000 plus is at the top, and then estimated home income below. And then in this case, in the 60622 zip code, there's just 6 records. In the 60647, there's just 4 records. If you click onto one of those columns, it then brings up those results. So this might be another way to narrow your search. And then you can also do a chart for the consumers. And with charts though, I did want to give this caveat: if you have less than 50 results, it will not do a chart, but you could do the summary and the heat map. And the chart is also downloadable. You can download it as a JPEG image if you need to put it in a business plan or report or something like that. So in this case, here's our 2,175 consumers with their so-called estimated home income in chart form. And as you see, the pieces of pie again represent the different income levels. And in this case, the top 5 results, Lori Ryan is first here, but again, we're not sorting by zip code in this case. So, and then down below, you see the rest of the full report. So there's a lot of people under the $20,000 estimated home income section in this case. So I know I went through a lot. It's very interesting to go through, and I am certainly more than happy to help anyone. You're gonna get my email address towards the end of these screens, and Maura can send out my information as well. So we're gonna switch gears, and we're gonna go to Census Business Builder, which is another way to see a breakdown of the demographics as well as the location of your business, what types of other industries are nearby, and also some census information. So I'm gonna go through some screens here and hopefully be able to do a quick demo at the end. We'll see. So there's the website for the Census Business Builder. Again, you don't need a library card to access. If you go through the Census's website, which is census.gov, one way to get to it is through the Explore Data area and then Data Tools and Apps. And when you click onto that screen in alphabetical order, there will be numbers at first. And then as you scroll down the page a little bit is Census Business Builder. And of course, you can also Google for it. So you can find it either way. And the Census Business Builder, they're up to version 3.3. Again, the census is updating information all of the time. So I believe towards the end of this month or maybe beginning of June, they're going to release version 3.4, because even though the census is taken every 10 years, they do all of these other different, like the economic surveys, American Community Survey. So that information is updated and then placed into Census Business Builder. There's 2 different versions or 2 different ways to search, and I'll be focusing on the small business edition. Again, I'm going to go through these screens pretty quickly, but there's lots of different webinars that you could take and informational flyers. I sent one of those to Maura, so she could send those to you all. So again, Census Business Builder can help determine the best location for your business. So first off, it will ask you what type of business do you want to research and where are you considering locating the business. You can only search for one business category or one geography at a time, but it's really easy to change that or go back to the search if you want to. One thing I've heard noted is that if you are considering a storefront location, if you have GPS enabled on your phone, this website, I don't know how, but is mobile friendly. So if you have your GPS on and you go to the Census Business Builder's website, you can choose the Find My Location button instead, and it will find your location, and then you could get the information about the area that's surrounding information that you might need. So in this case, you can either search, you can search by NAICS code. So if you found out the NAICS code from another source or from Data Axle Reference Solutions, you can search for that in the #1 search box. Or if you're not quite sure, you can then go to one of these categories that's shown on the screen. And in this case, attorneys or lawyers are in the professional and business services category, which I have in the box on the screen. So once I clicked onto professional and business services, there was 9 different choices, including accounting, consulting. I see many of you are thinking of starting in consulting or expanding into consulting. But in this case, going back to my attorney search, in this case, lawyers, the usual name. So then I say, okay, I'm thinking I'm a lawyer. I want to research that type of business. So there's 172,000 establishments in the United States. Where do I want to locate my business? We'll go back to the 60622 zip code. Again, you could search by city. You can't search by metro area because that's not something the census looks at, but you can go back and you can actually kind of scan through the map. And once we go to that result here, I'm going to go to the business builder map. So we are searching for lawyers. We put in our zip code of 60622, and it always opens up to total population. So, okay, great. Here's the population of the 60622 zip code, which is 53,294. That's shown in the lower left-hand corner. The number in parentheses is the margin of error. And so once the more census information is put out, this number might change. Since Chicago or Illinois has lost people, so there might be less people one time when you look at the zip code. And then it also shows some other information like the average household size, the median household income. And also on there, there's a legend of other total population in the area, like the 60647 zip code that's north or on top of the 60622 zip code. They have more people because they're more in that bluish color. And you can actually change the color scheme if you'd rather have gray tones, if these colors are too bright. You can, in the map configuration section in the lower right-hand side, you can change your default scheme to different colors if you want. So like I said, total population is great, but there's many, many other searches that you could do with the census, because the census, of course, collects a whole bunch of different information. So we're going to go to that select map variable, or we're going to look at the select map variable section at the top. So if you click onto one of those down arrows, I'm just showing 2 screenshots here. Again, one of them is by customers, so your consumers, and you can search by all different types of demographic information like percent male, age, race, sex, things like that. If you choose the socioeconomic characteristics button, that then goes to, let me make sure, I don't want to say anything wrong, just want to check my notes here. So yeah, the socioeconomic characteristics like household income, educational attainment, persons with health coverage, things like that. Housing characteristics, which would include owners, renters, 1-unit buildings, multi-unit buildings, things like that. And then I also am showing the consumer spending button as well. And here you can look at total consumer expenditures per household. You can also specify different characteristics. I took a screenshot, so you can't quite see everything, but you can limit your by total consumer expenditures on average, as well as specific categories like how much people spend on education, how much people spend on life insurance. Now, if you want to be, there's the buttons that show, or tabs that show businesses annual, businesses quarterly, workforce building permits. those are not available at the zip code level. Those you would have to you'd have to search city, state, or even county, and then you could find more information about businesses. The census is very concerned about privacy, and when you're at the zip code level, you might be able to figure out what businesses are in that area. And from their economic surveys and survey of business owners, you can also like maybe figure out how much some of those businesses make. So in this case, if we were to click onto businesses annual, when we're searching by zip code, those will have strike throughs because you can't search by that. So I just wanted to show those 2 screenshots because on this map here, I changed my map variables. So thinking about the estate planning attorney, so professional and business services lawyers, 60622 zip code. I changed my map variables to % of 65 years and over, and consumer expenditures per household on life and other insurance. So that's also shown in the bottom left corner below. That's where it shows the percentages. Sorry about my little screenshot here, but it does say in the 60622 zip code, 6.1% of people are 65 years and over, and consumer expenditures on average is about $490. So as you see, maybe on the map, some of the circles are a little bit bigger. And so that one towards the northeast, the 60614 zip code, the circle is actually a little bit bigger. So maybe they might spend more money on life and other insurance. So maybe I want to focus in that zip code instead. So maybe I could do, Maura, what's my time? Can I do a quick demo of Census Business Builder?
Yeah, you've got like 20 minutes, so.
Oh my gosh, wow,
Yeah.
I really went through. Okay, perfect. Well, here, I'll do a quick Census Business Bureau search, but here is my contact information. Again, my name is Lori Preston. I'm the Business Services Librarian at Park Ridge Public Library in Park Ridge, Illinois. And my email address is my first initial and my last name, which is lpreston@prpl.org. All right, so let me go ahead and see if I can go over to the Census Business Builders website. And maybe we'll do a little search on Data Axle if I still have some time. So the Census Business Builders website, and Maura, is that being shown?
No, we're still seeing thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Let me see. I might have to stop the share and then go to the Census Business Builders website. Do you think that would work?
Yeah, I think that's what usually has to happen.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again. All right, so now hopefully Census Business Builders website. All
Does
right.
anyone have any questions for Lori? Or do you want to save the questions till the end, Lori?
I guess, may we save the questions till the end?
Okay.
I'll try to talk super fast still. Okay, so here we are on the Census Business Builders website. Again, you don't need a library card to use this. It is mobile friendly. It might be a different version coming out soon. Here's where we would search, but this is where you could see an overview of the product. You can also see some instructional flyers. So I believe I sent one of these to Maura. Hopefully she'll send that out to you. So this is, if you forget everything I say, just come and look at this flyer and take a peek, and that will help you search for it. So again, here's our Census Business Builders website. What's nice is once you get the information, it then turns it into a report that you can then download, or actually you can like save the website information and send that link to a colleague, and they can look it over as well. So here's what type of business do you want to research, and where are you considering locating it? As you scroll down a little bit, that's where you could search for your type of business. There's these 6 main categories here. professional and business services, I did have to click on a couple just to see which one had lawyers or consulting. It wasn't apparent to me. So it might take a moment to find your section. There's insurance. So here's lawyers again, or consulting. I know many of you are thinking about that. So here we've selected lawyers, and where do you want to locate this business? So you can do find my location if you want to, or you could put in a zip code, and for whatever reason, it always says it can't find it. So in this case, okay, this is exciting. I haven't seen this before. Okay, so here's our zip codes down below. So 60622. Now you could go straight to create report. If you do this a bunch of times, you might not even want to go to the map. You just want to create your report. But in this case, we'll do the go to map button. And sometimes takes a couple moments. So it's thinking about showing the map. Okay, here we go. So again, it shows the total population. The map is very, very, like I'm just gonna, like I did like scroll on my mouse, and that has now changed the map. So it's very touchy. So just keep that in mind. So I'm gonna scroll up a little bit here. So here's where we're searching for professional and business services lawyers. And you can actually change your industry at this point. And then here's where you can change your location. So you could put in your city. You could put in a different search instead. Again, you wouldn't be able to do metro area, but you could search for one location at a time. So I'm gonna close that. So again, you can, total population is what's shown, but you can select a different map variable. And like I said, since we're searching by zip codes, businesses will not be anything that has a strike through, you can't search by. So like I said, in this case, you can't search by employers. You can't actually search by anything in here. Non-employers are people that are self-employed. So just keep that in mind. That's the difference between employers and non-employers. These people are self-employed or independent contractors. So that's in the businesses. So those people that are going into consulting are the business to business person. You might want to search for these, but again, not by zip code. So customers, again, the demographic characteristics, you can search by or have the map show any of these. Here's the different socioeconomic characteristics. Again, household income, educational attainment, how many people have master's degrees, how many people are employed, how many people have health coverage, things like that, veterans, and then housing characteristics, how many housing units are there, what's the vacancy rate, do people have internet, median year structure built, things like that. So that those you can only search for one variable or two variables at a time. So if you wanted to do % male, you can't also do % female, unfortunately. You'd have to go back and do another search. Consumer spending, again, very interesting. So average consumer expenditures per household, you click onto any of these radio buttons. Now, some of these also have a small arrow next to it, and that you can then click onto it and will show more choices. So alcoholic beverages, any, or do they consume beer? Do they consume wine? And then as we go further down, here's on healthcare, here's the life and other insurance. So on healthcare, you could click this little arrow, and then how much on medical services, how much on non-prescription drugs. So you could take a look for things like that. So there's our life and other insurance. So here's our, we'll go back to the example search, the % 65 years and older. That's gonna be my select variable. So I'm gonna put that in the first one. So now it repaints the map. And I do want that second variable. So I'm gonna try to click over here if I can get past, oh, it's gonna rejigger the map there. Okay, we'll let that do its thing. Okay, so now I'm, who knows where I'm at, 60614 zip code here. So percent 65 years and over, consumer spending. I'm thinking about doing that estate planning lawyer. So life and other insurance. So I'll click that one. We'll select that variable. So the first one is going to be percent 65 years and over, and then percent purchasing, or how much they spend on life and other insurance. So over here on this side of the legend in the lower right side, there's the percent 65 years and over. And as you scroll down, the consumer expenditures per household on life and other insurance are indicated by the size of those orange dots. So in this case, this blue area is percent 65 years and over, and it looks like this part. So I'm gonna kind of, you can move these around with these little arrows here. So it looks like this 60610 zip code and the 60614 zip code, they have more consumer expenditures. So if you click onto one of these, and we're gonna have the map show again. So I'm gonna restore this data dashboard, even though it kind of covers the map. So the 60614, 9.4% 65 years and older, but they spend about $623 per year on life and other insurance. So maybe I want to focus my business or company in this location here instead of the 60622 zip code. Now at the top where it says change your location, now it has changed it to 60614. Whatever is listed at the top here where it says lawyers and 60614, that's what's going to be on your report. So I'm going to click on to create report. So if you wanted to have it be the 60622 zip code, you could create that report first and tell your colleague, well, that they don't spend as much on life and other insurance. Now I'm thinking of placing my business in the 60614 zip code instead. So you could, talk to your partners if you need to, or anyone else if you're thinking about opening a storefront and where you want to meet those customers. So in this case, I'm going to click on to create report here in the lower left. This is what I wanted to show for sure. And this takes a moment. So it's actually going to show, even though we left the map with the percent 65 years and older and the consumer expenditures on life and other insurance, when you do the report, it actually shows you everything about that area. So here it's lawyers. And like I said, I left it on 60614. So as we scroll down the page, it then shows you my potential customers, and it shows all of those different demographic information. Even though we didn't search it on the map variable, it still shows it here. As we scroll down some more, here's the socioeconomic characteristics. So again, we didn't choose this on the map, but here it is right here. You could see the percentages. As we scroll down some more, and they tell you where the information is from, the census does. So these are 5-year estimates. So this, like I said, will change with the census here. So here's the housing characteristics information. As we go down, here's the consumer spending information. This has its own scroll bar. So even though we weren't looking at how much people spend on alcoholic beverages, here it is in that zip code. This is the 60614 zip code. And as you scroll down, you could see all the other information for that area. Even though we didn't map it, you are still receiving that information. So all the way at the top here, there's lots of different scroll bars. You can actually configure the contents. So if, and again, businesses, that won't come up. So if you say, well, I don't care about the socioeconomic characteristics or housing. I don't care about that. And you know what? If you don't want the consumer spending, you don't have to put that in the report either, but it might be helpful. So you could then configure your report. And in this case, we've just got the demographic characteristics and the consumer spending. So you can change your contents of your report if it's too much or maybe not enough information. This is where you can then download this information. So you can download it as an Excel file. You can download it as a PDF. So that's really, really helpful depending on what you're going into. So that is the Census Business Builders website. And Maura, do we want questions, or do you want me to take a peek at the data Axle reference solutions?
Why don't we take questions? We have
Okay.
about 6 minutes. So
Wonderful, perfect. Yes.
first of all, I wanted to say, Dr. Angela said that this has been eye-opening.
It's very exciting. You know, if you just, yeah, I mean, hopefully you're one of those people that has data Axle reference solutions and a library card. If you don't have a library card, I highly suggest it. But yes, it is eye-opening. Both of these products are very interesting. The Census Business Builder, I mean, this is free information that you can get.
Kate looks like she has a question.
Yes.
Hi, Lori. Thank you so much for
Hello.
your presentation.
Thank you.
I agree with Angela. It has been very eye-opening. I think what's most eye-opening is how much information is out there about me.
Isn't it exciting?
But,
or your neighbors on your block too.
Yeah, exactly. I think what I wanted to kind of ask you about is, I think for a lot of us, including me anyway, I'll speak for myself, you know, I'm building, you know, my business is going to be based out of my home. I'm not really planning on opening a storefront of any kind anytime soon. So I was curious about, I feel like I was just trying to think in my head about some of the uses for this information other than like a place to actually have a storefront. But like Maura, for example, I think mentioned like direct mail marketing and like knowing about who lives in an area that you might want to market to, or maybe just even finding out different areas of people, like maybe you want to, you know, spend some time out and, you know, doing some of that kind of marketing in certain areas. So I wanted to kind of just like, I guess, ask about that. I mean, I think that I'm getting that as a, you know, use for this information, but I also, I guess I was a little thrown off by why you need to put in what your industry is, because does it really matter? Is any of this information that's here, if, for example, on this Census Business Builder at all, it doesn't really seem like it's at all changed by your industry. It seems like the information is the information, and you're putting your industry in more for where you might want to. I'm a little uncertain about that part. Can you say more about that?
No, sure, yes. And I actually was, when I was finishing up this presentation a couple days ago, I was actually wondering about that with the Census Business Builder as well. I'm almost thinking about emailing them, like, what does it matter if I put in lawyer, if I put in fast food restaurant? I honestly was wondering about that as well, because when I did more by like the county level or city level, like how many, because I did the search for Park Ridge, Illinois, which is where I work. And I put in, I did lawyers, and I did, you know, this Park Ridge, Illinois. And I guess like some of the circles that were shown, like for Park Ridge, it just said, because one of the searches is like total employers as the map variable, and it only showed 8. And I was also wondering a bit like, what does it matter what industry you put in? I still have it open here, so we could do, I mean, here's our lawyers search. And so what if we do our, you know, food services and restaurants and put that in instead? What does, you know, how is that going to change? I guess it might change the information a little bit. Yeah, see, it's pretty much the same information here for the zip code, but maybe you would want to then choose a different map variable, because you probably don't care about how much people spend on life and other insurance. You want to know how much they spend on dining out. And in this case, I still have my 65 years and over people. So that has changed. Well, the percent of people 65 years and over hasn't changed, but here's the expenditures on dining out. So I also agree with that. I'm not quite sure, and I might ask the census, like what does it matter if I put in lawyers? How does that affect the map with the total population if that's what's shown first off? So I'm also actually wondering that, and I wish I had a better answer for that. And I actually haven't really seen that on any of the so-called facts information, like why do you choose your industry? If it is just to locate your business, then okay. But yeah, for other, like if you're just from home, maybe the Census Business Builder wouldn't be as informative as much as that data Axle reference solutions would be.
Yeah, maybe it helps them for knowing what we want to know about.
Maybe, yes. But yeah, I agree with that. I think I might email the census and ask them, why do I have to choose an industry? If it's just for my location, that's fine. But yeah, how else could I use this for my industry? Will it show me how, well, it wouldn't, I guess depending on, since the census is so concerned about privacy, like maybe it wouldn't want to show as many lawyers, in a zip code if there's not as many showing. So here, I'll just change this to, because one of the things that you can search by, and I don't know if I have enough time, Maura, I understand if you want to cut me off, but if you search by, and you got to let the census fill it in for you. If you start just typing, it probably won't find anything. I've also noticed that as well. So here's the lawyer search, City of Park Ridge, and I'm actually going to, you can remove variables. So I'm actually gonna remove that consumer expenditures one, and I'm just gonna go to businesses. And one of the things, so since we're searching Park Ridge, we're searching a city, you could do all employer establishments and select that. So again, now it's gonna show, and I'm not sure, I'm just wondering myself as well, like, is this 43 lawyers, or is this is just 43 employer establishments, I guess. And then here's my map, so I can see.
I guess that
if
would give
there's
you your competition, right? I mean,
no,
no. So
I don't.
If it's showing you there's 43 establishments there.
Right, I'm guessing it's just saying, well, there's 40, but when we look at Reference USA, it's going to tell us that there's a whole bunch more businesses. So that's why I'm not quite sure why you have to choose your industry first, if it doesn't really affect anything else on this map. So
okay, good question.
But you see how useful this is, because you can check by consumer spending. You could check to see what businesses are in your neighborhood that might be competitors, that might be possible partners.
yeah, that's definitely on that data Axle reference solutions. I was just looking at the corporate mental health, like maybe you want to get to those businesses that have, in the thousands, like maybe the bigger companies are gonna want your services rather, or I guess it depends on who you're trying to reach as well. Like, do you want the lower income? Do you want the lower end of the scale, or do you want to reach the more, lucrative businesses? I guess that's something you have to decide on when you do these searches. So total annual payroll of employees. So in this Park Ridge, is this good? Or if we go to this section over here, you might want to see like what area does, change it to Skokie or Evanston or another location instead.
Okay. Thank you so much, Lori. We
Thank you.
appreciate your assistance. This has been so helpful.
Thank you for
And I
having
know-
me.
Yeah,
Yes.
people are working on their target market and trying to focus in on different variables, and this showed a number of variables you could search on.
Yes, and there's so many more I didn't even cover. So yes, and of course, if you have any questions, either reach out to Maura or reach out to me, and I'd be more than happy to help. Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
I put your email in the chat, so if anyone
Wonderful.
needs to reach you by email, that they've got that information. But everyone's
Excellent.
saying thank you very much. Thank you, Lori.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Enjoy the sunshine.
Thank you. You too. Thanks, and good luck,
Okay.
everyone. Thank you.
Okay, everyone, we're going to take a 5-minute break. So if you meet back here at 10:05, and we'll get ready for our second presenter. So welcome back, everyone. Does anyone have any questions?
Maura, yeah, I just wanted to follow up. What was your take on the best way for us to use this information? You mentioned searching for competitors, possible partners, because I think most of us are working from home, so it definitely probably isn't where to locate our business.
Well, some of them, I mean, like the lawyers may be looking for a place to locate their office. Some
Okay.
people, yeah, maybe just focused on a certain area, maybe even their home is in a certain zip code, so they might want to use it that way.
Oh yeah, I mean, I would definitely look up my zip code since that's where I live and I'm
Yeah.
primarily doing my
So
work.
I guess
but
it depends. Yeah, it depends if you're B2B, B2C.
Yeah, I mean, that was the other thing I was thinking is that it would be good maybe for B2B research to, like when you could, if you're looking up, you could use it to look up what other, what businesses are in certain zip codes that you might want to partner with. Yeah, but that's more like, yeah, like possible partners. Yeah.
Right, right.
Or I guess not partners, but yeah. Okay.
And as you think about your consumers, what's your persona? What are their psychographics? Do they, are they interested in, so you're going to tell stories about families. So are they interested in history? So whatever your psychographics are.
Okay. Thanks.
I wonder for your company whether it might be useful in terms of if people who are related in terms of living within the same area. Do you have 3 generations within the same zip code or something like that? Might be it's a little different way to use it, but might that be useful?
Wow, I guess you could find that out on there. Huh? That's a fascinating idea. Thanks,
Yeah.
Angela.
Also, one thought was this is useful, but I'll be struggling to use it next time when I try to use it. So are there like professionals, people who do these searches for a living or something? Because this is such a good tool. I might spend hours and come out with very little or less useful thing for me. But if I give it to a professional, I'll pay for it, but then I'll get the job done right.
Well, and you can also go, I know at the Chicago Public Library at Harold Washington and like Lori, you can go into the library and they'll sit with you and work through your searches. So as long as you have some parameters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's useful. Good to know. Thank you. I might use that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you are near Harold Washington, there is a librarian named Glenn Woodside, and he's very helpful.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I go there. I've been there a couple of times pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Thank
he's
you.
very helpful.
Yeah, Glenn, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to welcome our next presenter. Hi there. How are you, Bridget?
Hi, Maura. Hi, everyone. How are you today?
Great. So Bridget's here. Let me introduce you, and then I made you a co-host so you can share your screen. Okay.
Wonderful.
So Bridget Anderson is founder and principal of Orange Vista LLC, a market research consultancy primarily focused on the health and education sector. With nearly 20 years of professional experience, Bridget began her career in the financial services industry and spent nearly a decade with JP Morgan, Bank of America, and Barclays in a variety of strategic and operational roles in Chicago, New York, London, Johannesburg, and Nairobi. Upon returning to the US, she worked for several years as an independent consultant and in a strategy role for a global building materials company. She then decided to pivot professionally, which a lot of people here are thinking of doing, and learn more about technology, innovation, and healthcare via participation in various tech boot camps and professional development programs. She holds monthly office hours at the Polsky Exchange at the University of Chicago and has served as a judge and coach for several entrepreneurial initiatives. Bridget holds an MBA and an MS in biomedical informatics at the University of Chicago, from the University of Chicago. So welcome to you, Bridget. And I sent Bridget the list of everyone who's participating. Most people here have either started a practice a while ago or are interested in developing a practice around professional services.
Fantastic. Thank you for that introduction, Mara. And good morning, everyone. I'm really excited to speak with you all today. I think we have about 35, 40 minutes on the calendar. So in terms of structure, I put some slides together. I don't think you've all seen them yet, so I'll walk you through those slides. There's about 20 of them, and then we'll use the remainder balance of time, hopefully 15 to 20 minutes or so, to do what I call live office hours. So I'm sure that some of you may sit with some market research questions based on my presentation or based on the presentation that you just had. So I think it's always fun and exciting to see kind of like live case studies of sort of research and design in action. So really excited to work with you on all of that. So with that in mind, I'll share my screen, and I just want to keep in mind, this is a very interactive presentation. So don't feel like you have to listen to me sort of talk through these slides and, wait for your questions until the end. Definitely don't do that. You can interrupt me. If I see you, you can raise your hand. But yeah, definitely ask questions along the way. Okay, can you all see my screen?
Yes,
Awesome. Okay. Let me move to the next slide. Okay, so I always like to kick off this presentation just by congratulating you all. I think that it's very exciting to be an entrepreneur, but it also kind of creates a lot of nervousness and uncertainty sort of launching a new venture. I know that a number of you came from sort of established jobs and roles before, and so there's definitely like an economic opportunity cost that you all sort of give up when you decide to kind of launch a new venture, whether it's on a full-time or part-time basis. But I want to congratulate you on making this endeavor. And I know that the title of this program is Plan for Profit. And so I always like to emphasize the importance of planning to help minimize uncertainty that you're going to face as you launch your new product or service into the market. But with a solid degree of planning, you can sort of be tops in the entrepreneurial game and minimize some of those risks and sort of uncertainties that you discover along the way. So with that in mind, I want to kick things off by just giving you a little work to do already, because we're going to try to do a lot in these 30, 40 minutes that we have together. So I'd like for you to take 1 minute to write one question about your venture that you would like to have answered. So I'm going to start my timer. I'm going to give you 1 minute starting now. Got about 30 more seconds. About 10 seconds. Okay, and time. So hold on to that question. We're going to go back to it later in the presentation. So I hope you know this all right now, but I always feel like it's important to just kind of put it in the front of each conversation. But please know and understand that all business, especially for-profit business, is paid problem solving. Hopefully there is a problem that you see for another business or for consumer that needs to be addressed, and your distinct product or service is solving that problem. If it's not, we need to figure out where the real business opportunity is. So with that in mind, there's always 4 basic questions you should be asking yourself as you're launching your business and trying to understand the market. What problem are you solving? You should be able to answer this in a very succinct, coherent manner. Be very clear about what problem you're solving. And then secondly, ask yourself, why are you qualified to solve this problem? Why are you qualified to do it? Is it based on your professional experience? Is it based on your level of expertise? Is it your operational know-how? But what is that unique value proposition or selling point that you have that you think can make you qualified to solve this problem that you see in the market? The third question is, does the market need this? So oftentimes when we're thinking about new products or services in the market, we have to ask ourselves, is this a vitamin or is this a painkiller? I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with that analogy, but as you're solving a problem, you have to ask yourself, is this a business need or imperative that needs to be met? Or is this more of a nice to have? And as you're doing your customer discovery conversations, as you're trying to sell your product, knowing the difference between the two will be very important. I think I saw a question just pop up. Let me just see if I can find it here. Can someone read it aloud to me in the chat?
They just commented that they loved all businesses paid problem solving. Love that.
Oh, okay.
That was Gina.
Okay, thank you, Gina. Okay, so does the market need it? So understanding that difference between the two, is it a nice to have versus a need to have is very important to know too. And then the fourth point that I really think is really important for us to all think about and know is, how do you plan to make money? Like I said before, these are all profitable ventures. These are revenue generating ventures. These aren't social enterprises, so there aren't other dimensions that you may be managing. The outcome is financial impact for most of you. And so as you think about your plan to make money, you have to ask yourself, are these relationship-based businesses that I'm sort of going into? Is it a transactional business where I'm constantly searching for a new customer? Are these businesses where my product is part of a larger bundle or suite of products or services that are purchased? Or is it, something where people are incentivized by price, like it's buy one, get one free, or there's some other kind of incentive at play? So think about that as you're thinking about how you monetize that problem that you're solving. So good market research, I should probably change this word to great. Great market research can help you with three fundamental things. It can help you with money, relationships, and time. These are all precious commodities that most of us as entrepreneurs don't have enough of in our life. And we have to be very strategic about how we allocate resources to address some of those needs. So in the context of money, good market research can help you with understanding your revenue projections, understanding how to price your product. For some of you that have businesses that are more kind of startup with high growth ambitions, it can kind of help inform how you talk to investors or people who may need to fund your venture. So you have to have a laser sharp understanding of just sort of the world of money and how it sort of impacts your business. The second aspect of market research that's super helpful is for relationships. Obviously, as I'm sure many of you are sort of solopreneurs, or you're not maybe doing this like with a partner or other people supporting you, but there's going to be other people that come in to help you with specific legal needs or financial needs or marketing or design needs along the way. And when you have solid market research and you have clarity and understanding what it is you do, the value that you bring to the market, and what the market needs, this can help you land relationships that can be helpful for you. So whether you're putting together a board of advisors, or just some kind of like senior advisory board or leadership to guide your business, being clear on sort of articulating the market and the opportunity will be very compelling to them, because oftentimes these are people that have many kind of competing interests and things attracting their attention. It'll also help you if you have a business where you're in the long term looking to hire people to work with you and grow and scale. Recruiting the right people, the right talent, and helping them understand this is a good business to be in, and you are a good organization to lead it and be with it is very important as well. And then lastly, the most important, I would argue, for good market research or great market research is understanding how to allocate your time. It's the most precious commodity. You don't get it back. When it's gone, it's gone. And so oftentimes as an entrepreneur, there's many things competing for your time and competing for your attention. And so you have to sort of look at things on a day-to-day or week-to-week basis and ask yourself, how am I allocating my time? Am I focusing on the things that matter? If it's a product or a service and it's new to the market, am I spending enough time educating people about this product or service and why it's important to them? Am I doing value generating activities in terms of where I physically spend my time? So think about the pre-COVID world. Maybe you were going to a lot of networking events or happy hours or conferences. Did you feel like you were gaining enough insights into the market and momentum and building enough relationships to be helpful? Other value generating activities you may think about are time spent designing a social media campaign or a marketing campaign, and really understanding your path to purchase for your customer or your client. And so by path to purchase, I'm not sure if you've all discussed this yet, but this is sort of going from the moment that someone hears about a product or service that you offer to the moment that they actually want to buy it. Like, how much time does that take? I think sometimes for entrepreneurs, we naively think, oh, because a person is aware of this, they're going to want to buy it. And that usually is not the case. It may take multiple iterations of conversations, different types of conversations, demos, talking to various stakeholders before your client, whether it's a business or an individual, decides, okay, I think I want to buy your product or service. And so you have to think about how much time do you allocate across these different constituencies. And then finally, the other aspect of time that's really important too is knowing the importance of pivoting. Sometimes in a new business or a new venture, things aren't working out and you need to quickly try to ascertain why. Is it something about the market structure? Is it something about the sort of substitutes or competitors in the market that you just can't compete with? And you have to ask yourself, are there any types of modifications or tweaks that I can make to my business to be more compelling or competitive? Because the worst thing to do is to kind of have one type of product or service, you keep it out in the market for a long time and it's just not resonating with an audience. So having that ability to pivot is super important. So I've talked a lot about what market research can do for people, but I actually haven't told you what market research is. So let me give you the textbook definition, and then I'll explain what it really means. So market research is the systematic method of gathering, recording, and analyzing problems related to the provision of goods and services. This is something that maybe, for those of us that took Econ 101 back in the day, it may resonate with us, but we need to really kind of break this down and say, okay, what are you really saying, Bridget? What is market research? So let's just break it down in terms of terminology. Markets. Markets are platforms where goods and services are exchanged. The most simple example that I always like to cite with people is just going to the produce section of your grocery store. That is a produce market there. Someone has spent some time thinking about the selection of fruits and vegetables that need to be on the market. There's some type of quality criteria that had to be assessed. There's some type of pricing mechanism that was in place to decide how the product will be sold. And then you, as the customer with your shopping cart going to the grocery store, is sort of driving that demand with your budget for the week or your grocery list and thinking about what it is you want to do. But in the context of a market structure, one of the things you may ask yourself is, well, what kinds of fruits are in the market? Why do we select Dole pineapples versus some other kind? And so there's some different types of players in the market. There's also, quantities of different competitors that may be there, and there's a selection process. And so the example that I like to cite with people when they think about market research is just sort of imagine landing in a new environment or in a new place and just trying to get a feel for the lay of the land and where you and your product or service may sort of land in that market. Does that all make sense to everyone? Are there any questions? Okay, I'll keep it moving. I know I'm talking pretty fast. Okay, so within market research, there's two dimensions that market research sits on. There's primary market research and secondary market research. And then in terms of methods, there's qualitative and there's quantitative. So I believe in your session ahead, you had a deep dive into secondary market research methods, and I'll kind of quickly gloss over that. But the thing that I want to focus on in today's session is primary market research, which I think is highly undervalued and something that an entrepreneur should constantly be doing. So primary market research is self-conducted data gathering. And the primary way that it's done is through in-depth interviews, focus groups, and observation. Secondary market research is data that has been created and compiled by others. So hopefully in your previous session, you saw examples of published reports, market research companies that publish industry analyses. There's the Census. I think I heard some talk about a library before I joined into this session. But there's just things that other people have investigated, published, and communicate it out to a broader audience about a particular market opportunity. And I think as you're going into a new market, this gives you great foundational information to understand questions about maybe the size of your market or trends in the market, who the competitors are. These are some of the amazing insights that come from that space. Okay, I see 2 questions. We didn't talk about published reports, so if you're able to talk about that, that would be helpful. Okay, so with published reports, there are a number of like well-established market research companies out there. Nielsen is one that sort of comes to mind for me. They do a lot of like consumer reports. Or if you look at Pew, P-E-W, they do a lot of research reports as well. And oftentimes they're looking into a very kind of like specific research question. And it could be catered to an academic audience, a commercial audience, a civic or governmental audience. So that would be one of the examples that you think about. And so with published reports, one of the things you could think about is like user spending or user streaming during the COVID crisis. There's probably a company like Nielsen that maybe had a study commissioned by the government or maybe by Netflix just to understand what were people's pandemic viewing habits. And that kind of information could shape Netflix's approach to why everyone watched Bridgerton over the holidays and why it got renewed for, an 8-season run, something to that effect. But it's sort of looking about trends and analysis to see where we stand based on past behaviors, current behaviors, and then sort of shaping money, time, and relationships for future opportunities. So that's kind of a high level sort of Hollywood example of what a published report can do, but it kind of serves its purpose, hopefully. Okay, next slide. So primary and secondary are the first sort of dimensions of market research. The other 2 are quantitative and qualitative. So quantitative is the use of surveys, polls, and data gathering techniques. So think about things like your Google review, your Yelp review, your health grades, anything that maybe ask you to like rate an experience on a scale from 1 to 5, or has an open forum to ask you how you feel about something. Oftentimes, what these things are doing is they're trying to take a sample population or take a sample from the general population and infer where those trends and opportunities are. So the most commonly cited example there could be around presidential elections when we're doing polling there to kind of see what candidate may be in the lead or who may win a potential election. You're really trying to use sophisticated statistical techniques to infer what that opportunity may be. The second method for research is qualitative methods. So this is more conversational. It's not necessarily asking someone to rate something on a scale of 1 to 5 or to say yes or no, but it's really kind of more abstract, more conversational, and it's really helping you to understand a person's motivations, attitudes, values around something. So an example of a qualitative method type question could be, walk me through a typical day for you. That's kind of pretty open-ended. It's not saying, at 8 a.m., what are you doing at this time? At noon, what are you doing at this time? But you're just trying to get a feel for some patterns and where you may see sort of commonality and experience and answering sort of that fundamental question of, what are the sleep patterns or the day patterns of most people. So it's really a conversation. And it's usually done through, like I said before, it's interviews, it's focus groups, it's one-to-one conversations. But it's really, the fundamental purpose of it is to understand human behavior. So in the context of the time that we have together for this presentation, we're going to focus on the interview. So primary qualitative insights to understand more that can help you with your market.
This is perfect because we just talked about customer discovery interviews, and people are starting to do some. So they have a number of questions around them.
Okay, we're going to get into them then. So yeah, so these interviews, it really is about customer discovery. And the point that I always like to emphasize to people is that customer discovery is not selling anything. You're just having a conversation. You're understanding what values matter to them. You're understanding what are sort of explicit expectations for a product or service need. What are some of the implicit ones? And you're really just trying to kind of detect patterns, going back to that maybe high level fundamental question that you're trying to answer. So in the process of doing these customer discovery interviews, you should think about yourself almost like a journalist. And, the person in front of you is, the person that you're interviewing. And you should have done, to a reasonable extent, a little bit of background research about who they are, about, what values may drive their decision-making process. And then you should put together an interview guide that helps sort of guide the conversation for some of the topics you'd like to talk about, but you don't have to necessarily rigidly adhere to it along the way. Oftentimes, as you're asking questions, because it's based on sort of storytelling and being very like narrative driven, people may answer some of the questions in the context of a question that you've already answered, and you may not need to answer it again. So definitely make sure that you're attentive and kind of paying attention to that. And then also along the way, the people that you're interviewing may share new insights or allude to things that you hadn't even thought about before. And you don't want to just kind of like table that. You want to maybe explore that a little bit further and see where that topic takes you. So that's definitely very important. And I think, the core takeaway when you're thinking about telling these stories is just kind of constantly asking why. You want to understand, like I said, motivations, behavior, beliefs. So if it's not very clear, sometimes, through storytelling and just genuine inquiry, you can get follow-up and answers to some of those questions. The other point that often comes up in these conversations around customer discovery is, how do I find my person? So hopefully, as you've thought about customer discovery, you've started to develop at a high level a persona. So kind of like, a sketch or an outline of who you think this person is. Maybe you have an idea about their gender. Maybe you have an idea about their income, about where they live. Are they in the suburbs? Are they in the city? What are their lifestyle? What are their habits? But you need to get really specific about who this person is so that it can shape your strategy in terms of how you find them and convince them to maybe have a conversation with you as part of this discovery process. So here, I cite some examples around, finding Fortune 500 CEOs or finding bodybuilders and, strategies that may work and some that won't, but be very kind of like mindful and thoughtful about what your approach is as you're sort of trying to discover who this persona is. And also along the way, you may come to find out that there's a persona that you discover or that exists that you hadn't thought about before. So that may be a new insight that you learn along the discovery process that can shape future sort of engagements or interactions. So know that discovery it's an iterative process. It's not sort of one and done. You're always going to be constantly like learning and finding out new things. The other important channels to think about for customer discovery are, like I said before, conferences and trade events. And, pre-COVID, a lot of this was in person. I think one of the democratizing aspects of the pandemic has been a lot of these events have shifted online and into the virtual world. And sometimes they're at a price point or just on a platform that's just more logistically feasible for us to do a bit more discovery. So I definitely think that you should tap into that as an opportunity just to kind of see where the trends in the conversation are. I think there's also a lot of power in social media, although it's often maligned for some of the bad aspects of it. There's definitely a business and sort of customer discovery opportunity, I think, with a lot of these online communities. Here I cite, some commonly known ones. I think since the last time I gave this presentation, Clubhouse, which I'm not sure if a lot of you are new or familiar with, they've really exploded as a very powerful platform just to kind of listen to all kinds of conversations in the room with all kinds of stakeholders. So that might be something to consider as well. And then for several of you, because you are in the professional services space, and I think that some of your new ventures may be an extension of what you did in your previous professional life, you have an existing network. You have friends, you have family, you have contacts, you have the people who are participating in this program along with you to help you in that journey. So I think by putting together very compelling communication around the kind of people that you would like to talk to, the length of time that you'd like to talk to them. So if you say, hey, I'd like to have a 30-minute conversation with bodybuilders in Chicagoland, I will offer a discount to GNC or something like that. This is going to be compelling and resonate with them. So just kind of be mindful as you think about your networks and your community. There's probably a wealth of relationships and opportunity right in front of you that you just hadn't thought about before. So let's see, it's 10:36. We're going to do some live office hours now. So for those of you that wrote down that question in the beginning of our session, I'd love to just sort of take some time to listen to that question and then help you think about an approach as to how we could get that question answered. So I guess people can raise their hand or you can chime in with your question and we'll help you sort of figure that out. Kate, I see you, so yeah.
You are fantastic. I am loving your presentation. Thank you so much. This is really helpful. I wish that you had presented a couple weeks ago, but I feel like it's helpful at any time. So I'm very happy to have you. So the question I wrote down, I think that the thing that I've noticed so far is that what I'm doing is the problem that I'm solving is helping people record their family story. So often the thing that I'm realizing is that a lot of people don't realize that they have like a pain point around recording a family story until they've already lost someone, or they are potentially on the verge of losing someone who they realize those stories are going to go with them. So when you were talking about time and you said something about time, you don't get it back when it's gone, it's gone. I think that
Are you
that's
still there?
something.
I think you froze up.
Oh, I did. I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
I can't hear you. I heard the part about people losing family members and then realizing, oh, I should have recorded this earlier.
Exactly. So I think that I guess where the question I'm trying to solve is trying to figure out exactly. Some people are good at realizing it ahead of time, but I think that a lot of people are interested in doing this kind of thing, but they don't necessarily take the action to do it. So that what you talked about, that path to purchase, I wonder how I can work better in that, how I can do a better job at, allowing people to even realize that this might be a need that they have. Because I think a lot of people think that it's a nice to have until they lose that person, then they realize it was a need to have, so that's kind of where my rub is. And I was just wondering if you have any thoughts on that.
Mm-hmm. So with that in mind, I mean, do you feel like you have a solid idea of who the person is that you would be selling this to? Like, do you feel like this is sort of the spouse of a person that's passed away, or just someone that's feeling very like nostalgic, or maybe like the family archivist? Like, these are the kind of people that would get excited about this?
Yeah, the family archivist, or just even the children of the people who are aging, I think, especially, as they are, getting much older, right? You sort of start to think, oh, there's all these stories that my parents or grandparents or whoever have told me. And I just realized, I feel like they're precious, and they tell me, they give me a sense of who that person is, but it kind of gives me a sense of also of who I am and where I came from. And, and I don't want to lose those, So I think I've got a couple potential target markets. I think children of aging, potentially grandchildren of aging, although I think those people might be too young to really realize what they're going to lose. But also maybe the elderly themselves, who want to leave something behind, but just haven't gotten around to doing it on their own, because I'm the kind of person who's providing the service instead of doing like a DIY. I'm not doing like a DIY version. So yeah, those are the potential areas right now, but I also have considered whether I could work with companies, like museums, historical societies. But that's like, I feel like I'm going to focus in a little bit more for now, and then expand later potentially.
Yeah, no, I think this makes a lot of sense. So I think from, the way you've described it, I would think about it in the context of legacy planning. So there's definitely like this this formal aspect of legacy planning, which is, oh, yes, I have a will. Yes, I have a medical directive. Yes, this is the plan for death care. Once I pass away, this is what I want you to do with my body. And maybe those are all kind of like difficult, awkward conversations, maybe, I don't know, we have to discover that. But I think what you're offering is something that's a little bit lighter. It's a little bit more nostalgic, and maybe something more communal. So maybe in the context of selling these types of services, wills, funeral plans, whatnot. This is something that's introduced as well for people. I mean, that might be something to consider, like if it becomes part of like a bundled package, or you could just sort of see what kind of trends or opportunities you see in that industry for how they initiate that conversation with different generations. Because I think, like you said, you know, demographically speaking, baby boomers are aging, and you know, everyone's graying, and there's this sort of sandwich generation of people who are typically raising their own children, but also thinking about and caring about their aging parents. So I think in the context of legacy planning, there's definitely a major opportunity. And I think from, you know, anecdotally from what you're describing, it sounds like a nice to have, but maybe it's something that becomes more of a necessity. And, you know, in the past, when we thought about building some kind of digital archive or, you know, recorded conversations, maybe it seemed very cumbersome. But I think in this day and age, with the different tools and technologies in place, we can show that it can be very easy, it can be polished, professional, and just an amazing memento to keep for people. Yeah.
And I think it'd be a great idea to pair up with Gina and Jennifer, because they're both estate planning attorneys. So they have a similar issue trying to get people to plan ahead.
Yes, thank you. I thought of that.
Yeah. I
So
see.
now,
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Dr. Angela has a question also.
Sure.
Hi, thank you so much for this presentation. It really went very well with the first one we heard. I do corporate mental health for Black employees, and I have a high level target market. So Fortune 100 companies, Fortune or top 100 firms in whatever industry it is. A lot of my business is via word of mouth. And so my question that I wrote down is, besides word of mouth, how do I leverage the clients I have into more clients?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great point. So I would think for your type of venture, referrals are powerful. There's sort of the kind of low key referrals where, you know, one CEO calls another and says, hey, DEI, you know, we need to do something for our Black populations that either aren't being promoted or, you know, there's attrition issues or whatever. And they say, oh, there's this lady, Angela, give her a call. I think that there's probably also an opportunity, depending on how visible you want you and your brand to be, to leverage things like social media platforms. I'm thinking like LinkedIn potentially, and also just going to places where you feel like thought leadership is occurring and being sort of a subject matter expert in these spaces. I think that could have potential as well. So just thinking about your role as maybe like a speaker or a panelist, if you've written a paper, if you're writing a book, these are all ways to garner greater visibility for yourself.
Thank you.
No problem. Do we have some more questions?
Yeah, hi, sorry. Bridget, this is Mahen. I have a consulting business in finance and accounting, providing companies with KPIs, help them see their business better, help them make better decisions with data analytics on the finance and accounting space. I'm currently, you know, I have same issue as Dr. Angela. I have my referrals, I have word of mouth, but how do I scale it? Because I understand being a subject matter expert and kind of being there in person, but that's just so much limited. Is there another way to scale this kind of business without being in person or?
Mm-hmm. So with your business, are you a software as a service? Are you an advisor? Are you outsourcing this data analytics function? What exactly are you doing?
No, I provide basic analytics on your products, your geographies, how your products are doing. I am a finance professional, worked for Fortune 100 companies for last 10 plus years, and now I'm providing it as a service individually, and I have one assistant. So it's no outsourcing, no technology. It's just analytical brain power, basically. Saying, oh, you want this? I've done that 100 million times. This is how we do it. You want to see how your businesses are performing, how your divisions are performing, and you have data in all different places. I can combine those data either using Excel or a system and provide you an one view of how your business is performing.
Mm-hmm. Do you have an active website right now?
Yeah, it's 20cg.com.
Mm-hmm.
I just have it's basically a simple website. It's not
Mm-hmm.
a sophisticated.
Do you have a demo on your website of your services?
No.
You should do a demo. You should have testimonials, and you should have an
Okay.
intake form.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay.
Any other raised hands in the room? I think we may have time for one or two more.
Hello, Bridget. This is Sonia. Really quickly, the presentation was striking. I'm also into marketing, so great minds think alike. But what really struck me was the qualitative and quantitative. So basically, my question is just with the 4 P's of marketing. Obviously, mine is price, just simply because I obviously want to have a package catered and or geared towards the business objectives, not my own. So when we consider price, my focal point is search engine optimization, getting them on the first page of Google, obviously monitoring that because keywords are very competitive and they change daily. How do I or what do I need to consider when honing these marketing skills that I possess, but making it whereas this one is more cost effective than the next based on the results that the business wants to receive?
So this is you having the client already and just trying to explain to them there's a whole bunch of digital marketing tools out there. If the goal is, get more eyeballs on a page, we buy some marketing from Google versus other options. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay. So I think in this example, this is probably where you have to spend a lot of time educating a consumer about some of those opportunities. I think in this example, the benefit is they're already maybe a client. So they've hired you because they see that there's something going on that you can help them with, but they may not understand the full suite of like what it is that you do and how you can be helpful for them. So if you think about it, like in the pandemic, a lot of companies have had to go digital now. They knew they had to do it. They didn't know quite what that meant. And I think as it relates to different company objectives, there's different things you can do. So like you said, for some certain companies where maybe they have a really robust website and you're trying to direct people there, there's opportunity in that. I think for other companies where they're like, when people type in certain keywords, we want to be, on that first top of the fold so that people see us as like a solution there. There's a strategy behind that. But I think that one of the things that probably becomes most important is just kind of really understanding from that client, like, what is your objective? And kind of going back to what I said before about money, relationships, and time, really getting clear with them around what kind of timeline are they looking for to achieve some of those objectives, and helping them understand, oftentimes, especially with digital marketing, it's really kind of a slow burn. I think sometimes with certain clients, they think, oh, I bought an ad and I'm not seeing customers already, but it's like, well, it may take a little bit of time just to promote awareness and interest from these people before they make a decision. So I think, if anything, in your decision-making process, and even just in the role of market research, you have to think about the role that like client education takes in helping them understand the expectations for the service that you're providing and what you're doing and how it ties to results. And I think in that example, maybe sharing with them particular case studies of success in the past, it helps anchor in their minds an expectation about how long it will or will not take.
Perfect. Great. Thank you.
No problem.
Bridget, I know a lot of people have asked about pricing, and is there a best way to do, well, probably not a best way, but a way to do competitive research around price, to determine where you sit amongst your competitors? Do you call your competitors and say, what is your pricing?
They're not going to tell you. Yeah, this is a really good question. Because
pretend to be a client.
You can, but they'll suss you out. They'll know, oh, we know who you are and what you do. So I think in general with consulting and pricing, most are not apt to make that very visible. Like if you jump on their website, they're not going to say, for such and such amount, I offer this. Oftentimes they want to just get you in the door with a conversation. And based on that conversation of understanding their needs and their budget, it helps you understand where the opportunity could be. But that being said, I think there are opportunities, especially, in the context of maybe going to events or like conferences or just kind of being with thought leaders in the space to kind of suss out how things are priced. Because I think oftentimes, especially for consultant, it's best to price by project. And in case you haven't heard that before, like, yes, you can think about what an hourly rate is or like how much time it will take to complete a certain task. But I think especially in the B2B context, when you're trying to sell to a client, they're just thinking, okay, I'm hiring to do this thing for me. This is the end deliverable I want to see. And, you know, this is the time frame they want it. You have to think about how you should price yourself to do that. And oftentimes, maybe there are sort of like bids or RFPs in place that, you know, really kind of outline people's approach to all of that. And so, yeah, you may have to do a little bit of shopping around just to kind of see how you are priced as compared to others. Because I think for clients or companies that are price sensitive, it's bad to underprice yourself because then sometimes you're seen as like a cheap option or someone that just didn't know your worth if you know you significantly underprice yourself as compared to competitors. But then on the same token, you know, if you price yourself at a rate that's just like in another planet, people are going to say, whoa, where is this coming from? Who do you think you are? I can get this, you know, at a much better rate from somebody else. And so even in that customer discovery process, understanding if a person has worked with a consultant before, especially a consultant that's similar to what you do, if they're willing to share it, they may tell you what they've paid. I don't think the competitor themselves are going to tell you what they charge, but if you find your potential clients or just kind of potential persona and you say, hey, have you, you know, worked with a consultant before to address this problem or issue? What did you like about the experience? What didn't you like? There's going to be a lot of intel that they share there that will help you understand how to position yourself. Because maybe price, it's like maybe it's one dimension, but it's not the most important. Maybe people just really cared about quality, or they just really cared about timing. Like you did what you said you were going to do and you did it on time. And that's what they were happy about. But I think in the context of just that customer discovery, it becomes super important. Gina, I see a hand raised there.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. I just wondering, how do you set up or combat the people that think that they know everything, or I could just do it online, you know, why can't I just do it myself, or why can't I just go to LegalZoom, or why do I have to pay for it? Why, you know, it's just a document or whatever the case might be. Do you have any advice on dealing with that?
Sure. And what is your business again, Gina?
So I'm an estate planning attorney, but in this I'm working on is getting ideas for that, but I'm also working on something specific where I'm trying to develop a tiered membership program to help other attorneys get started with their practice. That's
okay. So it's kind of like a legal onboarding or on-ramping sort of.
Yeah. I
Okay.
wanted to, I found that a lot of like these coaches and things are really geared towards people that have lots of money. Like I was in a program and she's like, oh, it's $20,000 for the year. And I like, my jaw fell on the floor. And as I'm asking you how to get people to pay, right, I'm saying $20,000 is outrageous. But, you know, I just felt like there was nothing geared towards people on the lower end of the spectrum, especially when I was starting out. I could not afford $20,000. It just wasn't possible. So I feel like there's like an overlooked market there. So that's kind of where I'm looking.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So I think in the context of your question, it's really dealing with like the skeptical client, or maybe a person that's like, oh, this seems like a nice to have, but I don't need to have it. And maybe from their vantage point, that's how they feel for whatever reason. But from your vantage point, maybe you see yourself as a need to have. And so I think as you're articulating the value of what you can offer to them, maybe you offer some cautionary tales around a person that tried to shortcut it operationally or financially, or they tried to find something on the internet that served their need, but in the long term, it caused a lot of, you know, pain and consternation that didn't have to be there. So I think that's maybe one way to think about it. And then, you know, I think oftentimes in that customer discovery process, we get what's the word, like deflated when we meet these kind of skeptical customers. But to me, there's like a lot to learn from them, because as you're pitching your products and services, which will happen at a later point after the discovery, you're going to have to know how to deal with that difficult prospect. And keep in mind, not all money is good money. There's some people where it's like, if you take them on as a customer, it's probably not going to be a good relationship. So why even bother? But then for others, it's like, well, they were skeptical. I understood their pain. I understood their concern. I addressed it and I won them over. And now they really understand what I do and they sing my praises to the world and I get tons of business. So I think in terms of some of these clients or some of these prospective clients that really are hesitant, really just kind of drilling down as to what that hesitancy is. So I think, earlier you alluded to it being maybe like price. Really being clear about what you're offering. Yes, it comes at a price, but what you're doing is going to add a lot more value to them in the long term, I think can be very important. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It's just, I just feel like I haven't done exactly this in the marketplace for the other attorneys, but I do get a lot of this with estate planning, especially like with things like LegalZoom and stuff. And you're right, there are some people I'm just like, you know what, I'm not even going to bother anymore. Like I'm just not dealing with it. But yeah, it's still something that is hard to overcome when people come in with that mindset,
Yeah, but to me, it's a good like temperature gauge just to kind of see where sentiment sits with certain pockets. And so as you're thinking about that overall market landscape and you're trying to understand with these people that I'm trying to sell with, there's going to be a certain person that's just like, nope, go into LegalZoom. What you're offering is nice, but not going to take it. And that's fine. And then, in the long term, maybe you carve that out. You say, okay, this is the person that looks to LegalZoom first, but if I talk to them about some of these other things that working with me can help them with, they'll maybe reconsider. Whereas with other people within that LegalZoom focus space, they're just going to stay there and that's just what it is. And that's okay too, in my opinion.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem.
Thank you so much, Bridget. We only have 2 minutes. So
Oh, okay. So I think I have 2 quick slides that I'll walk through very quickly. Going back to that question that I had, I know I didn't get a chance to talk to all of you, but think about that question that you wrote, rewrite it if you feel like it really wasn't a good question, and then devise a plan for how you're going to get that question answered. So think about what are you going to do to get that question answered? How are you going to do it? And what is needed? So think back to those resources that I showed on the previous slide around sort of, social media, fairs, conferences, your networks. There's a lot out there that can help you answer it. And then one of the other questions that I get often is like, how do I know that my research is done? If you're starting to see the same answers over and over from people and you feel like, oh, if I talk to another 10 people, they would probably tell me the same thing, you're probably reached this point of like data saturation where you're not learning anything new. Also, the other thing to kind of help you sort of know if your research is done for this particular assignment is if there's a new persona, product, or entity that you learned about along the way, and thinking about how you're going to incorporate this information into your business model. Oftentimes, I think as entrepreneurs, we think we know most of what's going on, then we discover, oh my gosh, there's this whole other scene or thing that's going on that they knew nothing about. So I think knowing and understanding that is super important as well. And then ask yourself, has your question evolved? The question that you wrote down now, knowing what you know now, would this be the same question that you would ask going forward? And if not, that's okay, but think about other new questions that you may want to ask for a new audience. One more quick slide. We'll go there. There, okay. There's 2 books that I think you should all read. They're free, they're on the internet. They're from this guy named Gift Constable. You can read them in an afternoon. One is called Talking to Humans. Read that one first. The second one is Testing with Humans. You can read them in a day. They'll give you a lot of sort of like inside strategies and tactics for how to address the market. And I think that's about it. So
thank you so much. They have already read Talking to Humans, but they haven't read the other. They haven't read the other, so that's good.
All right.
Thank you so much, Bridget. We appreciate it. Everyone's saying what a great session it was. And are we able to share your slides and the recording?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, everyone. I'm going to be emailing you your homework assignments. It's basically to find 2 competitors and get more information around your target market.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Okay.
Have a great day.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.